After that whole experience at Coyote Pass, I want to set him free.
How are you going to do that?
I go and apologize.
He wants to extend an olive branch. I need to know what the motive is.
So Janelle getting a new man.
How are you? Ron is in town, and I can't help but smile, sorry. So I met Ron at a speed dating event.
I am so happy right now, Ron.
I love that. This is my journey. My hope is for them too.
Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. Yesterday I let you know that Kody Brown is a joke of a father and he doesn't reach out to his children. And I told you that it was Leon Brown, Kody's child with Mary, that broke their social media silence to call him out. What I didn't tell you is that Leon was responding to Kody's own behavior and his very public interview on the Vile Files Special Forces reunion. I had a chance to watch through this reunion and I was shocked because Kody completely took over the reunion. In fact, he spent almost the entire time talking with very few people getting a chance to have a word in edgewise. And there was quite a bit of time spent with Kody about his lack of a relationship with his kids. Specifically, there were questions about Kody taking responsibility on the show and then coming home and everything changing. There was a back and forth between Kody and Natalie. Natalie is the co-host with Nick and happens to also be Nick's wife, where she was confronting Kody about the fact that he was claiming that he was reaching out but he wasn't, and she was sharing her own experience. But there was a lot that happened in this interview that I can see why his kids got so angry. Here's a couple clips, including Kody lying about the money that he owed the wives, claiming that they all made more money than him, which is not true, and that's why he didn't pay alimony. And then also, there was so many lies. But he also said that Janelle got a spiritual release, so apparently that happened, too. Check out these few clips. Went and got the divorce through the church. But there was no legal marriage. So, and they all made more money than me, so there was no alimony to be paid. Okay. You kind of said in your interrogation that you were offended by your children. Do you feel like your kids owe you anything? You know, this isn't a venue because it is so nuanced. This isn't a venue where I'd prefer to talk about that. It's that I believe that I need to make or heal things with my children, and I believe that healing things with their mothers first would work better. But I've been in touch with them, or I reach out to them often. Those who are not reaching back, you know, the responsibility for a relationship is on two people, especially when you're adults. Almost all of my children were adults when the divorces happened. So, they were already grown out of the house into their own families. What really bothers me about the way that Kody treats people is how he obviously treated Natalie versus how he responded to Nick when she asks about and asks a follow-up question about reaching out. Trying to clarify what he means by that. Because he's the one that's answering the question, he tries to shut her down and says it's not the proper venue. And then instead of stopping to talk about it and saying, I'm done. I'm not going to speak about it. He keeps going and he adds like all these other layers and these caveats, right? So he's like, I don't want to talk about me not reaching out because it's too nuanced. It's not the proper venue for this. And yet he keeps talking about it. And I think what really gets under my skin here is, if I'm being honest, he says, almost all of my children were adults when the divorces happened. That doesn't excuse the fact that he doesn't have a relationship with his minor child. It doesn't. Even if all of his other kids were adults, what about Truly? What about the fact that you have a daughter that lives in Utah that you have no relationship with? What about the daughter that you have that's a minor that lives in Utah that was not an adult when this happened? What about the child that was like 11 years old? 11 or 10 when this happened? She was a child. She wasn't even almost an adult. She was an adolescent child. Nothing about that. Nothing. And mind you, Savannah was also not an adult when they split. When all of the stuff was happening with Kody and Janelle and he was separating from them and he wasn't speaking to them and wasn't seeing them. Savannah was in high school. She was not even almost an adult. She was a child. It's like he puts this caveat out there and ignores the children that were minors and some of the way I think some of the adult kids view it, especially I know McKelty is she's angry at him because of what he's doing to Truly. horrible. But then also he says that, Janelle gets a spiritual release and he just sort of drops that. Like we didn't know that. I guess the spiritual release actually happens. There's a lot more here though. Kody also was asked questions about the impact of reality television, and he spoke about in length about how reality television can create conflicts in relationships like in families because they will pit people against each other or they are looking for the drama or the rub. And he was speaking about, how it impacted his relationships with his wives. Also, how it forced him to have to take accountability, but he would be told to take accountability. He claimed for things that he didn't do. And he also admitted that he's not a grounded person. So therefore, he can't take accountability. She said, and it's hard to feel accountable. I can look at my hands and go, okay, here are the 10 things I'm accountable for, but that one you're trying to put on me isn't mine to own. And you kind of get in this place where you have to be super grounded. And you guys all saw me lose my head flapping like a chicken. So, it's a challenge to be in reality TV. I like to retire my wife Robin from television so they can't pit us against each other now. How's that gone? We're solid. Okay. Yeah, if you guys knew, I probably talked about her all the time. So, anybody that was hanging out with me, I like to talk about my wife who is shy, doesn't want me talking about her, but favorite person in the world. You can't come out of 3 divorces and not struggle a little bit with some kind of mental illness. I think what I thought was really bizarre about this is he was talking about reality television and how you hear the criticism and you hear what your kids are saying and you hear what your wives are saying and you don't want to own these things and whatever, and then he goes into this thing about how he wants to retire his wife Robin from reality television as though it's his choice about her not appearing on reality TV, as though he gets to decide if his 47-year-old wife is not going to work anymore. I feel like that's kind of what this whole going on special forces thing is about. He's trying to get into another career away from sister wives so that he can do the work and not have to talk about Robin and not have to have their relationship exposed. And he says that it's the reality television that causes the conflict in their relationships because you hear the criticism and sometimes you hear the criticism of your spouse and they're the producers are pitting you against each other. And I don't disagree that the producers are going to exploit drama or that they're going to exploit, whatever is going on in their lives, but they can only exploit what you give to them. They're only going to exploit what you're putting out. If you're not sharing it with them and if you're not willing to share it, there's nothing to exploit. But it's obvious that Robin and Kody's relationship isn't what it seems. And instead of acknowledging that it's not that, it's I'm just going to retire her, but like what? Okay, apparently Robin has no agency and doesn't get to decide herself, right? And he also spent quite a bit of time blaming mental illness that apparently he's not even diagnosed with. At one point he discussed all these supplements that he has and how he lied to the producers about how he needed all of these supplements and he had to bring all of these supplements with him, which included different supplements to manage ADHD that he decides that he has, but he says, I've never been diagnosed with. And so, in order to deal with his ADHD, he's taking things like caffeine and he's taking things like Nutrafol, I don't even know what that is, and vitamin D. And telling them he needs this to treat his ADHD that he isn't even diagnosed with. And I actually find this really dangerous because I am someone that has ADHD. And I know firsthand that if you put out information about what you think is going to help ADHD, it could influence someone that's what they should do. And I don't think Kody has any say or right to tell people how they should treat their ADHD and even suggest that he has it without a formal diagnosis. He doesn't have a diagnosis of ADHD. He can think he has it, but until he has a diagnosis, he doesn't have a diagnosis. And using caffeine, I can tell you with facts, isn't a long-term solution, and it doesn't help. Nor do some of these supplements that he claims. But that also doesn't explain I feel like he's trying to use his ADHD as well, my problem with my verbal impulsivity is my ADHD. Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. Well, we got a little bit of a teaser here of what we might expect to see in text messages that may have been between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, because documents that were unsealed today expose a timeline that shows Taylor's involvement, which is a lot more than what she has publicly claimed. Shocking, right? Yeah. Taylor was at a penthouse when Justin got yelled at by Ryan. This was never disclosed before. But there's more. So, let's talk about it. So, for the past several months, Taylor Swift through her PR has tried to distance themselves from what has been going on between Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Justin Baldoni. She's had her publicist go as far as to say that she had no involvement in the film. She didn't do anything with casting. She wasn't around for any of these conversations. She was only at the penthouse because of something, because she was there to support her friend and meet her friend's boss. And she didn't say anything about a script. She had nothing to do with casting. She didn't give anyone advice. She wasn't involved at all. Okay, if that's the truth, then that's the truth, right? Or we might get documentation that shows otherwise, which could have been why Miss Swift was trying to dodge process servers to get subpoenaed for a deposition. Right. But something unsealed today as it relates to motions that were filed by both Stephanie Jones along with Blake Lively related to spoliation concerns of the Wayfair parties reveals a timeline that Mr. Heath had created with the help of his attorneys of everything that was going on during production. So they had an understanding of everything that they had endured. Now Blake's team clearly is trying to state that this document was created because they believed there was going to be litigation. All of this is premised on the fact that Blake is trying to say that Wayfair had a duty to preserve literally everything from November 2023 on, and if not then in August of 2024. Press preservation is only required once you've been notified by a party that they're intending to sue you. So, it'll go a long way for the judge here to try to claim that they intentionally deleted evidence. I just want to be super clear. And a lot of what they're doing is really conflating small issues as a way to say this is why we don't have the evidence that you smeared me. This is why we can't prove our case. It's just a way to win the case without winning the case. If you have the evidence, you give that evidence to the court. If you don't have evidence, you pound the table and you scream and you make ridiculous allegations and file a million motions to compel and accuse people of spoliation and want sanctions all the time. Alright, that's my opinion. So, this timeline that was put together, it's kind of interesting because somewhere around April of 2025, Justin has a conversation with Blake and Ryan regarding her weight. Okay? And here's how it all plays out. Justin has a phone call with Blake's trainer and asks about her weight. This happens somewhere around the 21st or between the 21st and 24th of 2023. Then on the 25th, Justin, it says, went over to Ryan and Blake's penthouse and Ryan unloaded on Justin how horrible it was that Justin would ask about a woman's weight and claimed that JB was fat-shaming Blake. Justin was completely embarrassed and apologized and even shared some tears. Taylor Swift and Hugh Jackman were also present in the apartment at the time. Alright. So, that the film Justin's excuse for the questions about the fat shaming has to do with the scene where he claimed he had to lift Blake and he needed to properly train his back muscles based on the weight of what she would be in order to make sure that he is strong enough and won't hurt himself. He has herniated discs. And Justin's 6 feet 2 inches, but Blake is 510, so she's pretty tall. And he would have to prepare for the weight based on her size. It's not like he's lifting up someone that's little. Like I'm 5'3", I'm sure that I weigh less than Blake Lively, so it's just I don't think it's fat shaming. She's a tall woman and he has a bad back. And most importantly, Taylor Swift and Hugh Jackman are there. Apparently, while Ryan is reaming him out about this, asking a trainer and then the trainer relaying it to Blake that he asked about her weight and then they misconstrue this as he's being shamed. Blake is being shamed about her weight. Taylor Swift claimed that she wasn't there when any of this stuff happened, right? Like I was only there to talk about a script and I felt like I was ambushed. Like what? That happened on a different day, girl. So, she was at the penthouse multiple times and she apparently witnessed Ryan screaming at Justin. So, if anyone has any suspicion that Taylor knows who these people are, she knows. And Hugh Jackman was there, too. At one point in time, Justin comments to Blake in the early pre-production that he's praying for her father who had passed away. And that was included in a list of infractions at her hands-on meeting in Phase 2. And before they even went to start the film. Apparently Alex Saxes, the female producer, said that Blake's constant changing of the script was putting her in as the director, and she said, "This is bad." 7th, 2023, she informs the production that her baby is ill. And it says that interestingly, Blake was seen at the Taylor Swift concert on May 13th. So the Vegas shoot was scheduled for the May 8th. So they had to cancel it for an entire week. So from the 8th until the 15th, they had to cancel the entire production. But during that same period, Blake was with Taylor at Taylor's concert. So they lost money. So then remember, like when the first photos started leaking by the paparazzi where they were looking at Blake's wardrobe and the fan reaction was like super bad because they didn't think that she was wearing really frumpy clothes. They thought she looked old. This was the fans because the fans are expecting Lily to be 23, not 35. Okay, she's not old. She's just older than Lily, who in the book was 23. Okay, so on the day that all of these photos are leaking, they have a meeting with her. Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. Well, we got a little bit of a teaser here of what we might expect to see in text messages that may have been between Blake Lively and Taylor Swift, because documents that were unsealed today expose a timeline that shows Taylor's involvement, which is a lot more than what she has publicly claimed. Shocking, right? Yeah. Taylor was at a penthouse when Justin got yelled at by Ryan. This was never disclosed before. But there's more. So, let's talk about it. So, for the past several months, Taylor Swift through her PR has tried to distance themselves from what has been going on between Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and Justin Baldoni. She's had her publicist go as far as to say that she had no involvement in the film. She didn't do anything with casting. She wasn't around for any of these conversations. She was only at the penthouse because of something, because she was there to support her friend and meet her friend's boss. And she didn't say anything about a script. She had nothing to do with casting. She didn't give anyone advice. She wasn't involved at all. Okay, if that's the truth, then that's the truth, right? Or we might get documentation that shows otherwise, which could have been why Miss Swift was trying to dodge process servers to get subpoenaed for a deposition. Right. But something unsealed today as it relates to motions that were filed by both Stephanie Jones along with Blake Lively related to spoliation concerns of the Wayfair parties reveals a timeline that Mr. Heath had created with the help of his attorneys of everything that was going on during production. So they had an understanding of everything that they had endured. Now Blake's team clearly is trying to state that this document was created because they believed there was going to be litigation. All of this is premised on the fact that Blake is trying to say that Wayfair had a duty to P.